Hello, everyone. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is a special episode of the Commander's Brew.
Our set review for Aether Revolt.
Great. Welcome back, everyone. It's the Aether Revolt Commander set review right here, Commander's Brew.
Yep.
We have a special guest there. No one, don't worry about that.
We won't mention it. You have to look at YouTube to see who our special guest was for a brief period.
That's right.
Yeah, so this is the Commander's Brew podcast. This is an outside of our normal episode releases. This does not take the place of a regular episode. This is in addition to.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're going to go over some of the cards in Aether Revolt from a Commander point of view. Cards we think would be great in decks and the new legendaries, stuff you might want in decks. And for the purposes of this, we're not going budget today. This is just, we're talking about cards you might want because we don't know what they're going to cost. It's up in the air.
It's up in the air. Exactly. So, but we will say that whether or not we think a card is like worth having, whether or not it's worth paying the pre-release, the pre-order price for it.
Yeah.
That's up to you.
If we find like a dollar gem that we like, this should go on every green deck, for example, then
yes,
it's probably worth that dollar.
Yeah. Panharmonicon from last set review was an interesting one because it was pre-selling for like $4 or $5, and then that's just how much the price is. So like that's fine to get in on that because that's how much the card is worth, it would seem.
I have a feeling places are just better at setting prices in advance now.
Yeah, although there are still big, like when Star City Games had
Blade of Cells. I think that's what changed it, though, right? Like, that's the example everyone quotes. So I guarantee Star City Games will not be making that mistake again. Mm-hmm. They will be talking to Commander people for their pre-sale prices. So, like, I think the times are gone when we can sneak in sweet deals in advance.
I still think it can happen.
Okay.
I think we'll see it happen.
You're an optimist?
I think you're right in that it's going to be few and far between, though.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. So let's get right into this. This
Great.
is our set review. It is sponsored by Wizard's Tower, always.
Yes.
There are partners in Magic Crime, although there's no actual crimes going on, of course. wizardtower.com. Go check it out. Use the coupon code Tower Brews.
Yeah, so before we get into specific cards, let's just talk about some new mechanics that are featuring and whether or not we think they would be good in Commander decks.
Yes.
Right? The big new one of this set is Revolt. It's similar to Morbid, but Revolt says that you get an extra ability on something if a permanent you control left the battlefield that turn. Which is kind of like Morbid. Morbid says if a creature died this turn, you get a bonus. This just has more ways to do it. Anything can leave the battlefield for any reason.
Yeah.
And you get it.
Leave the battlefield is a big thing. It encompasses a lot. Morbid, people are comparing this to Morbid, and
it's a reasonable comparison.
It's a reasonable comparison because it works the same way. The mechanics are very much the same way. But dies and leaves the battlefield, I think there's a real big difference there.
Oh, yeah. And Morbid had to be creatures. This is anything, any permanent.
So this is more useful.
It's going to definitely be more usable in a Commander deck. But the only question is whether or not there are cards where it is worth playing for its Revolt trigger.
Exactly. That's the thing. What cards does this ability show up on, and how good are they? The ability itself has been improved. If you're going to say that this started at Morbid and moved to Revolt,
sure.
I think it's obviously a big improvement.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's one more mechanic, Improvise,
right? Yes.
Which is basically Convoke for artifacts, right? Mm-hmm. You can tap artifacts to help cast spells. They count as 1 mana. Now, in our format, a lot of our artifacts happen to be mana rocks already.
Yes.
So this doesn't benefit many decks, but it benefits artifact decks potentially the most, obviously. So we'll just keep an eye on those as well. If we see any cards that have Improvise that seem like they're breakable by having a lot of artifacts, we'll highlight those. But I don't see that, like Convoke, Court of Calling, great EDH card because it's a tutor. But that's a great card because it's a cheap tutor. Right?
Exactly,
like the fact that it has Convoke is what makes that possible. So like that's how Improvise might come up.
Yeah, like the Convoke ability itself doesn't make a card great just because it has Convoke. There's tons of cards with Convoke that are just, and the bonus, you get a slight bonus that it has Convoke. You might Convoke this out. Anyway,
those are the new mechanics. Small set. So those are the only new things that are popping up.
We have some returning mechanics. The vehicles, I mean, it's not really mechanics, a creature type, card type. We're seeing more vehicles, which is fun because I think it's a neat, new subset of cards. I don't know. Well, we'll get into it. We'll see if there's any better ones for Commander, because like as of right now, there's like one or two that are arguably playable in Commander, and one of them is a mythic, and the other is basically just a mana rock, right? Like those are the ones I would say would be good enough for Commander. So we'll see if there's any new additions to that, as well as energy. So energy is returning in Aether Revolt, and will this expand the reach that energy has, and will it now be a playable mechanic just splashed here and there in Commander? I think that there are some cards that allow you to do this.
Yeah, they call this a parasitic mechanic in the sense that it only works with itself. Although that's not how parasites work. They need something else to work. Anyway,
but
name aside,
I think the parasite means that like it feeds off of something else. So like if you have you can't have just one energy card because you need more. So it's hurting their deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we will highlight cards that work well with energy by themselves, cards that generate and spend energy themselves for powerful effects. That's the ones we'll hit on here. Just as a quick footnote, though, for those keeping track, there are now 19 vehicles. So if you want that Deepala deck to roll, I think we're at the point now where we probably have enough to make a real deck out of it.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I think you can definitely make that happen now.
Yeah.
Maybe we should revisit that deck.
Probably.
Because we did build, you built the dwarf tribal vehicle deck for Kaladesh.
It got twice as big.
That's cool. I think that's really neat. And you got more dwarves certainly as well now.
Certainly more dwarves. That was the weak part.
Yeah, you had to reach back to those weird dwarves. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I think let's definitely revisit that. But not right now. Right now, it's the set review, so let's start talking cards.
Yeah, there are 6 new legendaries. These are the ones that could be commanders for your deck, so it seems like a good enough place as any to start with.
Now they're mono-colored commanders, which is a little bit of a bummer.
We like multiple colors.
Yeah, you want to at least have 2 colors, I would say, for the most part. But these creatures are also, of course, probably going to be decent in the 99, if not just commanders themselves. So let's talk about it. First up, we have Baral.
I think Baral.
Baral, Chief of Compliance. 1 in a blue. We're doing this like crazy out of order. Starting with blue.
Oh, yeah. I think it came down. Oh, you know why?
What?
I realize now by the way I searched, I think this is probably in order of most expensive to least expensive pre-order.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how the search ended up.
Well, quick peek here has Baral at $6. So
there you go.
Baral, Chief of Compliance is 1 in a blue for a 1/3 legendary human wizard. And he says, instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's 1 generic. That's pretty great. I haven't seen that on a creature for a while at least. And whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
So you loot whenever
loot
you counter a spell. I think for a mono blue commander that's going to do a lot of countering, you're just going to do Talrand. I see no reason to... This is a downgrade from Talrand, in my opinion, if that's the deck you're building.
Right.
And it seems like that would be the deck.
Is there some deck here where it's mono blue dealing with the graveyard somehow because we're discarding cards? I don't know if
How does blue deal with the graveyard, though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the problem with a mono deck is you can't really do much outside your color identity.
Yeah, you want this to be in a blue-black deck, or I mean, but this is, I think, is a decent 99 card, right? In a control deck,
or in an Is It deck where you're also running Goblin Electromancer and Arcane Melee. Like for sure, this guy's going into
just for that first ability alone. Right?
Yeah, that's the reason to run this guy. I don't think he's a commander.
Baral, Chief of Compliance, and $6, obviously inflated for like standard purposes.
It's like we're recording this before the pre-release weekend. I think we're releasing this before then too, but like who knows what it's going to be, right? It could shoot up to $20. It could go down to $1. Like, there's no way to predict.
True.
This is all speculation.
I'd say, though, arguably right now, well, not even arguably, I think, not worth $6.
No way.
No. We've got a lot of other cards in Commander that replicate this ability.
Yeah.
And why can't it just be draw a card? I mean, I guess maybe that's too powerful for Standard.
Because it only costs 2 mana to cast.
It's not too powerful for Commander, though, right?
That's the lens we're looking at, right? For our format, not good enough.
Yeah.
Next up, Karizev, Skyship Raider. 1 and a red, legendary human pirate. It's a 1/3 with first strike and menace. Whenever Karizev Skyship Raider attacks, create a legendary 2/1 red monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile that token at end of combat. And everyone, if you haven't yet, I don't think we have the art here for you, but the token art, the little monkey is wearing goggles. So that's the cutest thing there ever was. So mono red pirate. I think pirates are usually blue or black.
Yeah.
You're not going to make your pirate deck out of this. No. Although, just on
I do love that they included that she's a pirate. That's so cool.
Yeah, right? It's great for the flavor. And that little monkey token, there's no fear of it dying because you're going to exile it at the end of combat anyway. So whether it dies or not. So, I mean, if you want to sacrifice it or something, I think a lot of mono red decks want to go wide anyway. So I think that's fairly decent. As a commander, I don't see how to exploit this.
No, this isn't a commander card.
No.
For sure. 1 and a red for a 1/3 with first strike and menace?
Unless she's the commander of like some sort of like monkey tribal or like ape tribal or something. Like
you need green
primate.
for that, though.
You really would.
You really need green for that.
You got Curd Ape, who sucks without green.
Yeah, you also need green for. Right?
Yeah, you might be right.
Karizev is a neat little card, but like also strange at the same time. Like a 1/3 that, I mean, I get the menace because you want to attack with her. They don't block her, but they got to block the monkey.
Most likely.
But first strike, it's like, I guess you can't put 1 toughness creatures in front of it, but why would you anyways?
Yeah, tuned for limited and standard.
Seems like it.
Not for our format.
Not for our format. Let's move on.
Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Why don't you take this one, Andy?
Yeah, well, this is the one that, if you listen to the last episode proper of the show, Sean built a Rishkar Pima Renegade deck. So that should tell you something about its playability as a commander. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 legendary elf druid that says when Rishkar Pima Renegade enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And then each creature you control with a counter on it has tap, add green to your mana pool.
Yeah, I won't go too deep on it because I'll refer you to our last episode where we go fairly deep on this as a commander, but a legit commander. This dude's a commander, helps with a lot of ramp if you build it right, and you're able to do big, scary things fast.
Yeah, just, there are better versions of the low-costed, helping you mana ramp mono green commanders, I think, right?
But none this cheap.
But this is a viable option, though. And
sure.
A lot of fun, I think, can be had, like I think was evident from your build, with the +1/+1 counter theme also coming into play a lot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. So if you're kind of bored of the regular old, mono green stompy, I've got, a million mana dorks out, Rishkar could be a very a fun alternative, because it'll open you up to some new strategies, I think, with the +1/+1 counters. Not like a super, super powerful commander at that. It's pre-selling for $250. It's probably going to come down in price, I would imagine.
I imagine so.
I would hope so anyways, because it's not super worth $250. You can get like Sylvala or something instead. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Oh, this is the one I built in our last episode.
Yahini, Undying Partisan, 2 and a black, legendary Aetherborn Vampire, 2/2 with haste. Whenever a creature your opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahini, Undying Partisan. Sacrifice another creature, Yahini gets indestructible until end of turn. So again, Andy did his deck on our episode 77 about this dude, this vampire. So, I mean, you can hear the more in-depth analysis of it, but a viable mono-black commander for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, the ability to have your commander also be a free sack outlet.
Oh,
meaning that you sacrifice as the cost and get something. You don't have to pay any mana or anything. That is a very valuable thing to have. You can build a very powerful deck around this.
I also think he's decent in the 99 as a sack outlet.
Agreed.
Because some decks, like, you're not going to be the only sacrifice deck at the table for sure. So, like, if you get Yahenni out when someone else is running a sacrifice-based deck, oh baby,
yep,
get out of here.
And we mentioned it on the previous episode, but I'll say it again here because I think it's a great play. You put Yahenni out, you board wipe, sacrifice one of your other creatures to make Yahenni indestructible, and then Yahenni is a big monster because of all the creatures you just killed at your opponent's own.
Yeah, so, with haste, so he attacks that turn.
That's where the haste in. It's a very underrated part of the card, but it can be a real. It can be a kill.
We think it's underrated. No one's rated anything yet. It's
well, you know what? I'm basing it on my own thoughts about the card when I first saw it. I was like, haste. Who cares about that?
I do agree with you. I think your opponents will not see that coming.
They're not going to see Yahenni in your command zone and be like, ooh, it has haste, better watch out.
Right.
Because it's a 2/2. Who cares?
Yeah,
it's got to do a bunch of stuff before it gets big, right?
Not that much.
Well, not that much, as it turns out. So a cool commander for sure.
So let's go to the mono white commander. This is
SRAM.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe the best name I've ever heard in Magic. SRAM, Senior Edificer. 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary dwarf advisor. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. I like this card.
Yeah.
I like this card a lot.
Yeah. I don't like, is this...
I like this card.
A commander, or is this more support?
I don't know if I like this as a commander. It's definitely a great support card for, any Voltron deck, whether it's obviously auras, equipment, vehicles added in there now. I think is going to come up the least, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great card in a deck running a lot of auras or equipment. It's an auto include at this point. It's 2 mana 2/2.
Since it's also a dwarf, like Deepala must include for Deepala.
Auto include.
Yeah. So any what's
but you could make this a commander and you could make a deck out of it.
There are lots of white auras. White decks love tutoring for equipment and managing equipment and stuff like that. And then the vehicles are just a bonus if you want it. One of the vehicles, I don't think we're talking about it. One of the vehicles has an activated ability of 1 and a white to just turn another vehicle into a creature.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to crew them. So that would go in this deck, I think, if you have a few vehicles.
What do you run? What would you rather run as your commander in a mono white equipment deck? This guy or what's the classic one? The cat.
Kemba Ka.
So Kemba is great, right? It's a really cool commander. The more equipment's attached to her, that's the more cat tokens you make. But is there an argument to be made for SRAM in that I always want my draw spell available to me in mono white because it's so hard to get, and maybe we'll build in some redundancy as far as Kemba goes and have Kemba and have some of the other things that care about having equipment attached to them.
Yeah, making tokens is not hard in a white deck.
Exactly.
So maybe SRAM's better than Kemba just to shore up the weakness of mono white and draw.
And it's a cheap commander. You get this guy down 2 and start casting your equipment and even maybe you don't even care to equip it to him. Maybe you just want to have it out and then you're just drawing cards. I think SRAM is a legit commander. I really do.
That would be interesting.
For mono white, obviously.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a brew out there.
Yeah. And there's another one. It's not just 5.
Right. We have a colorless one.
We have a colorless legendary.
This is the Hope of Girapur.
I love it.
1 generic. Legendary artifact creature, Thopter. We have a legendary Thopter, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 1/1 with flying. Sacrifice Hope of Girapur. Until your next turn, target player who was dealt combat damage by Hope of Girapur this turn can't cast non-creature spells. That is a heck of a lot to do for not a lot of gain.
It's a heck of a lot to do to make it so that your opponent can't counter whatever's coming next.
Right. And since you are running a colorless deck, there's not much coming next. There's probably some Eldrazi's or
Well, I mean, saying that there's not much coming next, but it's Eldrazi.
A bunch of kind of a... Sure. Yeah, they're not going to counter them. That's fair. I mean, I guess, but I honestly can't see picking this over any of the aforementioned Eldrazi Titans as your commander, unless you want that sweet Thopter tribal deck. I looked it up. There are 11 cards that are Thopters, including Hope of Girapur, so 10 extra beyond it. Yeah. One of them is in Phyrexian blue, so you can't use that one because it's blue. And then if we're not even counting like
shapeshifters.
Yeah, if we're not counting shapeshifters either. I don't know if there's any colorless shapeshifters though. But there are 18.
I don't think there are.
There are 18 extra cards that make Thopter tokens, but a lot of those are colored, like Thopter Spy Network, for example.
Yeah,
or like
you gotta have blue if you're trying to do Thopters at the very least. I would.
Yeah,
think.
I feel like if you're doing Thopter Tribal, you need like Brea to get the red and the blue and the white, like extra ways to get Thopter tokens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's tough. They really dangled a carrot in front of us and it seems like a rotten carrot.
I think that this is a card that is definitely built for Constructed, not for Commander. The fact that it's legendary must be that we don't want them to have so many of these for some reason, I guess, on the board at once. I don't know. I don't know why they made it legendary. But you know what? It's kind of cute, and the name of this Thopter is Hope of Girapur, which I love.
Yeah.
Cool, sure,
I'm
man.
glad they made it, right? It never hurts to just make another thing.
1-mana legendaries are tough to come by, too. You don't
Sure.
see a lot of those, so
Sure.
that's kind of interesting. And I just wish it did help Thopters somehow. Like even just a small boost. Even just
Right.
Thopters get +1/+1.
That's the classic.
Like I'll take that. That's decent. Maybe that's too powerful. I don't know for what they actually plan to use this card for.
Yeah, I don't know.
Obviously was not built with Commander in mind, so you can't really hold it against it too hard.
No, but I'll take it. If every set they give us another tribal legendary, even if it's useless, that's gonna make someone happy. Someone is excited to make the Thopter deck.
Yeah, and there aren't that many colorless legendaries still, even, right? Like we've just got the 3 newer Eldrazi's from the last few sets.
Yeah.
But other than that, it is the other 2 Eldrazi that are legal and Karn, and that's it.
Yeah.
So this is only the 7th colorless legendary.
Hope of Girapur rolling in like Emrakul and Karn are hanging out, and Hope here. It's like, how's it going, guys?
I mean, he might be, like you said, like he might be okay to have as a commander in an Eldrazi deck, just to be like, oh, I know this guy's going to counter my Eldrazi, but like, guess what? Now he's not going to because you got in with Hope of Girapur.
Well, it sort of is, except you have to be able to hit someone, and only that player can't counter it. So you have to make the right guess. You have to get through, so you're probably spending 4 on Rogue's Passage.
With a 1/1.
1/1 flyer. So, like, the blue player probably has flyers.
They couldn't even make it unblockable, you know what I mean? Like, make it unblockable.
Too much on a 1-mana 1/1,
Too much, I
right?
guess, yeah.
Anyways,
we spent far too much time on Hope of Girapur.
Yeah.
It is not it's not a playable commander card, really.
Okay, let's move on to some energy cards that could exist on their own.
This is interesting. I'm stoked to talk about this.
Number 1, Gonti's Aether Heart. 6 colorless mana or generic mana for a legendary artifact. Legendary. Whenever Gonti's Aether Heart or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get energy. You get 2 energies. You pay 8 of them. You exile Gonti's Aether Heart. Take an extra turn after this one. So whenever any other artifact, including Gonti's Aether Heart. So here you cast Gonti's Heart, you get 2 energy. You cast Brea, you get 6 more energy because of her 2 Thopter buddies, and then you get another turn.
That's very cool.
Or whenever you want. And it does not say you have to exile as a sorcery. So you can sneak your turn in at any point when it matters.
Yeah, I love that. I always wonder with these cards where it's like they've built in that we must exile them. Like there's this one, there's the one that like Ugin something where it's like if someone would take an extra turn, they don't.
Oh yeah.
And you can sacrifice it and pay some amount to like get an extra turn.
I think they try to make extra turn shenanigans exile themselves so that you can't turn it into an infinite loop.
Of course, yeah. And I think that's good. I think that is good for the game. But I'm always thinking like, well, what about that card that brings something out of exile? Like, what about that card?
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can recur both that and then pull this out of our deck like repeatedly? I wonder.
I don't know what card
it seems like maybe
about.
It's too much work. Oh, it's a blue card with a flashback
green
cost.
Flashback.
Green, yeah.
I think that only brings back exiled flashback cards cards that have been exiled with flashback.
Okay, I think you're right about that. But there is also just straight up a green card that brings a card from exile back to your graveyard.
Cool.
Or to your deck, and you shuffle it in. Anyways.
Anyways,
Sconti's Aether Heart. Cool card.
Yeah, for sure runnable in any major artifact deck.
Yeah. The next one we have here with energy is Lightning Runner, which is 3 and 2 red for a 2/2. It's a human warrior. It has double strike and haste. Okay, cool. And it says whenever Lightning Runner attacks, you get 2 energy counters. Then you may pay, that's 8 again?
I think so. Yeah, it's 8.
So
here's the thing. They give you brackets after the 2 to say it's 2.
I know. Are you kidding me?
But they don't give you the numerical breakdown after the huge string of them.
I got to look at that so hard. Anyways, if you pay, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase.
So I guess I was wrong putting this on in the fact that it doesn't support itself alone.
Well, I mean, it does, but you have to attack with it 4 times.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
Right.
But that is, I put it on here because that ability is one that if you want it, you want multiples of it.
Yeah.
So, and this is another easy way to achieve it that your opponents won't see coming necessarily because he does have haste himself.
Yeah. I feel like this guy's going to get killed if you're just trying to do it with him.
No.
I think this guy's going to get killed.
If he's your only energy source, not playable.
Yeah. But it's always nice to have more effects like this.
Yes.
Even if it is tied to like something like energy, which like is maybe not as usable, but I still love it when they reprint big powerful abilities like this, which you don't see all the time anymore. But us Commander players are pretty used to them.
Yeah, we love them.
But I love it. But this is a mythic too. That's crazy.
Oh, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Aetherwind Basker, 4, green. It's a big dumb green idiot. It's 7/7 trample. Lizard. Whenever Aetherwind Basker enters the battlefield or attacks, you get 1 energy for each creature you control. Now we're talking. That's a lot of energy potentially. Pay 1 energy. Aetherwind Basker gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay. Now we're talking.
That's big.
Right? So you cast this for 7. You're probably going to get 7 or 8 energy. I assume your green deck has a lot of creatures in it.
Yeah.
A lot of tokens.
Mm-hmm.
When it attacks, you get that much again. So you probably have 20, 25 energy in the bank just from this guy alone. And then you get to pay 1 energy to give him +1/+1. So if they can't deal with it, you're going to trample over anything, maybe even just get a kill.
If you have 5 creatures out and you cast Aetherwind Basker, you get 5 energy. Next turn, you attack with him, you have 10 energy in the bank. This guy's attacking as a 17 trample.
With threat of activation. So
well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you have to assume that that's a 17
So
trample.
if you're at 17 life, you're like, well, I got to block
I have to
everything.
block everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
This is a powerful card.
Yes. Very
I like
good.
this quite a bit.
I mean, I would run Lightning Runner if I also had this.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's definitely worth it. Wow. Yeah, this guy combo's crazy good with Lightning Runner. I'm just so, in case there's people out there screaming at their headphones, we know it's Aetherwind, but it's just hard to say that because it's an A. It starts with an A.
Is it officially Aetherwind?
It is, yeah.
Aetherwind. Do I always say Aether?
I say
or do
it too,
I flip?
but I know it's Aether, but whatever.
Honestly.
It's fine.
Anybody really care?
I bet you there's some people out there who really
care. I bet you people care.
And I get that. Say it right. But whatever. It's hard when you're reading a lot of stuff and you see the A first. Your mind just says
Aetherwind.
Okay. It is Aether, though.
Okay.
All right. Next is Glint Sleeve Siphoner. 1 and a black for a 2/1, a human rogue with menace. Whenever Glint Sleeve Siphoner enters the battlefield or attacks, you get an energy. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energies. If you do, draw a card and lose a life. This is like a weird kind of half Phyrexian Arena type of thing.
Yeah, I put it on here because it doesn't generate its own energy very well. It's not useful unless you also have energy, but I think it's an excellent energy sink, and it's another angle to approach that use of energy. I also think what's unique about this card is that it is optional if you have energy. You may pay that 2 energy to draw a card and lose 1 life, whereas Phyrexian Arena will eventually kill you.
Yeah, exactly. If let if left alone long enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's on a creature, so it's highly fragile to removal and stuff. So I don't know if this is a especially great card, but I just wanted to include it because this is a unique ability that Energy has not dealt with yet.
Yeah, I think you're probably just going to run the other things in Commander that do this.
Yep, you're going to run Phyrexian Arena.
Yeah, but if you do have a few energy cards in here, you might think about this one.
Yep.
I did mean Aethertide Whale. Thank you, Scryfall. Yeah, go for it.
Aethertide Whale, 4 blue, creature, whale. It's a 6/4 with flying, because whales fly in Kaladesh.
That's right.
When Aethertide Whale enters the battlefield, you get 6 energy counters. And you can pay 4 energy counters to return Aethertide Whale to its owner's hand. So this is sort of like an energy version of Palancron, because you get more energy than it costs to put it back in your hand.
Right.
Obviously, you have to pay the mana. The mana isn't part of it.
In that respect, it is not like Palancron.
No. It's not. But it's like a fair version of Palancron. But I feel like we must find a way to break this. I don't know.
Yeah, there's got to be some way with blinking and stuff like that. Is there? I don't think they made a creature that you pay energy to blink something. If they did, that's a good combo there.
Yeah, that's an infinite combo.
But I don't think they've created that creature.
No,
probably for this reason. But this is a neat card. If again, this is not. You're not going to put this in a deck though that doesn't use energy.
No. But if it's breakable, then go nuts.
So just to be clear, in the category where we were like, these are going to be the commander cards that you can use on their own, 3 of the 5 you can't do that with.
No, just 2.
But you know what? It is, I actually didn't think that that's really what we were doing with this category. It's more, here are some new energy cards that if you were to use energy, they're actually good. And I think that covers it quite well. Okay, let's talk about the one land that seems okay for Commander. We have Spire of Industry. So it's a land. It comes into play. You can tap it to add colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap it and pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control an artifact. So it's City of Brass or Mana Confluence, but you have to have an artifact.
Yeah, those cards are expensive, but they don't have the drawback of having to have an artifact. But I find that in this format, every deck has a couple artifacts. Sol Ring, Commander Sphere, Darksteel Ingot. So this is probably always active.
I think it's pretty rare for someone to have 0 artifacts out.
So if this is budget, I say go to town.
Go to town.
This should be in every multicolored deck. It's not budget right now, but it might come down.
Yeah, it's currently going for just under $5, because it's going to see a lot of play, I think, in a lot of different decks. I don't think it's going to be budget.
In standard, it's going to be like, it just allows you to splash everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know enough about modern and things like that, but is there a deck that wants this card? There probably is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if there's a deck that wants more than 4 mana confluences, I think they're probably going to try and Aspire of Industry. I don't know. We'll see. So hopefully this will come down a little bit eventually and be a commander card for us. But it is definitely one that's worth playing if you open it in your pre-release or something like that.
I think so.
Okay. So because we're dealing with an artifact set here, obviously we're going to get a lot of cards that are very good for artifacts, like Spire of Industry. Yeah. So what are some other awesome cards for industry artifact decks, you ask? Well, great. We've got a couple of those for you.
Yeah, so if your artifact-based deck includes blue, you're probably going to want Merchant's Dockhand. It's a single mana artifact creature construct. It's a 1/2, but here's the ability. 3 blue tap. Tap X untapped artifacts you control. So we would do this at the end of the last player's turn. Look at the top X cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This is also getting closer to my Scry X card that I've always wished for. Because if I've got like a bunch of artifacts that I'm not doing anything with, in an artifact deck, again, in a regular deck, I wouldn't run this. But if I can tap 6 or 7 at the end of my last opponent's turn that aren't doing anything, equipment can be tapped, but equipment doesn't tap normally as its normal use. Yeah. Right? Even if I attack with my creature, that equipment is still untapped.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it is.
So I can tap that equipment and just do a deep scry and just kind of just pick a sweet card out of it.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's very useful.
It's kind of like, depending on how many artifacts you have, this can be like a dig through time, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you get 2 with dig, but like for this, you get 1 card of the top 3 or 4, maybe, or
maybe like 10.
Exactly. Maybe on a heavy artifact deck, you're looking at getting the best card of your top 10 cards. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm probably going to include those artifact lands, so I'm going to tap. That's just like it costs a little bit more mana. I think this card is going to be very useful in an artifact deck.
Yeah, that's a good one. Next up, we have Scrap Trawler. This is an artifact creature construct for 3 mana. It costs 3 generic mana and is a 3/2. It says whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. This is deceivingly good, I think. Like this you might look at this and be like, oh, just lets me return. Like, oh, what's the big deal about this? But the fact that it's not just itself, which I think is the classic use of a card like this, is like when this card dies, you get something back, and you get no limitations on it. It's like, well, wait, why would I want this? It only lets me get stuff with lesser converted mana costs. Well, think of those like in a Duretti deck. This card is insane. You lose your Bosch Iron Golem and you get back Wormcoil Engine, and you lose your Wormcoil Engine and you get something else, and in conjunction with the other artifact recursion you have
that you're already
back
getting
up to Bosch, and then you can, you know what I mean? Like Scrap Trawler is very good.
And I think what makes it great is that you don't sacrifice anything to Scrap Trawler. You're doing your normal sacrifices for benefit, but Scrap Trawler tacks on additional benefit.
Exactly.
So yeah, like you said, when Duretti sacrifices an artifact to get another artifact, you're getting 2 artifacts.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah, and I think this is breakable. Like there's a lot of ways to make artifacts cheaper to cast. So like you can even get back things that are sort of free to cast and then sack it and then get a cheaper thing but still free to cast that. So you can kind of like, if you can make things 2 or 3 cheaper, sack a 3 and get a free 2, sack it, get a free 1, sack it, get a free 0, sack it, and then do it all over again.
Wow. Yeah, I think this card's really good.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones where I was like, I saw it, I was excited, then I read it again, and I was like, oh, that's not that good. And then I thought about it for a bit and was like, oh, no way, that's pretty good.
Love those. Yeah. I love when you're like, yeah, it seems okay. Wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Carry the 1, go to the 2.
Yes. Quick math in my head. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Visions of Pythagorean theorems floating by your brain. E = MC squared.
Yeah. I have it. Yeah.
One of those melting clocks floating by.
Salvador Dali in your head.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next one that's good for artifact decks?
This is Treasure Keeper. 4 mana artifact creature construct 3/3. When Treasure Keeper dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card with converted mana cost 3 or less. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put all revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you're guaranteed. It sort of has like
weird after cascade.
Yeah, like dies cascade.
Yeah, cool.
Deathcade. Deathscade? I don't know. Anyway, but like most artifact decks tend to want to do a lot of artifact recursion. So if you're able to recur this guy at all, it's just insane bonus. And again, I'm assuming you're going to be sacrificing Treasure Keeper to do something else, and his ability is just a bonus while you're doing that other thing.
And this is also a non-land card.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to hit something.
Like you're going to hit instants or sorceries also with this if you run them, if you have them and want to run them.
Yeah,
this is a cool card. This is an uncommon.
So
like, I guess they're not too worried about it in limited, which makes sense because it's harder to really build your deck around an ability like this. But in Commander, you can really tune a deck to work with this guy.
Yeah,
Treasure Keeper can get you some crazy artifact ramp. In like a sacrifice recursion type deck. Ooh,
yeah.
Man, Duretti. It's so hard. It's like, why am I only allowed 100 cards?
I know, right? Like what are you going to cut? What are you going to cut?
What am I going to cut for my... Oh, my God.
Yeah, I love it.
And Brea. Like, Brea would love this card. But
Brea got to make some cuts. But with Brea, too, Brea's already sacking artifacts.
Yeah.
So, like, you're going to sack Treasure Keeper and another artifact to give a commander -4/-4, and then just get a free card out of it. Probably another artifact to fuel future sacks.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Yes, we did mean inspiring statuary. We didn't look.
Inspiring.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is. This is the. Well, we're having some technical issues with finding the art of the card for our YouTube broadcast. Inspiring. Did I spell it right?
I think
Inspiring.
You did. I doubt it's inspiring.
Inspiring must be spelt wrong because something should come up if inspiring. If you type inspiring. Oh no, it's not in there.
Weird.
Huh.
What card is it?
I think it's that I don't remember. I was gonna read it on the thing. Oh, you're not gonna find it this way.
Well, isn't it what? Can you write set?
Yes.
Set? Is it that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look.
Okay, we're looking through. We're going to browse through. We're going to find this one for you. We're browsing through all the artifacts from Aether Revolt. It's not
Which
an implement.
Got to be a lot.
I think it would be before this.
So
I think it just missed on the. I think it missed making it to Scryfall. I think they didn't find it.
There it is. Exactly the way we spelt it.
Weird. Anyway.
No, look, it thinks it's called Inspirational Monuments.
Oh, okay. That would explain it.
That's a problem with the website there.
Yeah, all right.
Interesting. Okay, anyways, we're back. We're here.
We're back.
Inspiring Statuary.
3 mana. Artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise.
Ah.
There you go.
Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise.
So if you're running an artifact deck and you inevitably have a handful of cards that are not artifacts, this just makes those way cheaper to cast.
Yeah. That means your commander has Improvise.
Yes.
If it's not Brea. If it's not Brea, yeah. Right.
This is also, I mean, so Improvise gets brought up a lot. So there's that like any deck it's usually Teamer that's going to generate hundreds of clues. Like any deck that just wants clues upon clues upon clues. Clues are amazing for Improvise because who cares if they're tapped or not? They don't do anything until you sack them. So just
kind of like energy. It's like, equipment. It's like, oh, who cares if it's tapped?
Right. And that Teamer clue deck is mostly non-artifact spells.
Yeah.
So once like adding this card to that seems like a no-brainer. So there's a rare case where it's not an artifact deck that would want this card. But most of the time, if you're just going to it's only useful in artifact decks. And again, because you're generating so many clues, you could argue that it is an artifact deck.
Interesting. Okay, those are the cards that are fantastic in artifact heavy decks category.
Yes.
And there sure are a bunch of them. Those are really, really cool cards. Next, though, is we have just general colorless cards that we want to talk about here.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that these are good in a specific artifact deck, but these are just colorless cards that we think will be
Since they're
useful.
Colorless, they can go in any commander deck.
Exactly. And the first is Paradox Engine. It's a 5-mana legendary artifact, and it says whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. Wow.
This has got to be breakable, right?
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't have a combo for you in my brain, but I can just feel that this is breakable.
Derives, stasis, untapping all the mana dorks. It's, I don't know. Oh my god, there's so much stuff you can do with this.
Stasis, right? Like just stacks it up,
lock down everyone's lands, and then have your own artifacts that will now untap because of Paradox Engine.
Not just artifacts. Well, yeah, your artifacts are where you're going to generate your mana.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. Ugh, ugly.
And it's so funny because lately we've really delved to the dark side when it comes to stacks. We always talk about how we're not real fans of that, but we did a whole episode basically on not letting people play Magic. I wrote an article for EDH Rec that was all about that. Okay, but Paradox Engine goes in every one of those decks, but also it goes in to the friendlier decks that want to deal with tapping and untapping, because this is an auto included in my Derivi tap and untap for fun artifact for fun effect deck, right? What's the guy that has he has the what's the mechanic where you untap when they untap something happens?
Makar the Gold Curse.
Yeah, like the King Makar.
King Makar,
is great for this.
Inspired?
No. Is it?
Whenever they untap, something good happens.
Anyways, there's a blue card that it is inspired. You're right. There's also a blue card that lets you trade with people. Like you get to trade like an artifact for one of their artifacts and so on. Paradox Engine goes in any kind of deck like that. The Tim deck, the Josh Lee Kwai Tim deck, where it's tapping and pinging guys and doing damage like that. Paradox Engine,
untap everybody.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a very powerful card. This is like, to me, not Panharmonicon level powerful, but like could be as powerful in the right deck.
Yeah. If you've ever thought about like, this is where you got to do the math.
Just like Mana Rocks alone. I can't like this
Mana Rocks alone. Yeah.
Mana Rocks alone. This thing.
You're getting free spells. Oh my God.
Those mana costs.
Wait, if you've got a Gilded Lotus and a Dreamstone Hedron and a Commander Sphere, let's say, you're generating 7 mana, 4 of which can be any color, and you get all of that back after casting the spell.
Yeah.
Whoa.
See what I mean?
Whoa.
This card might be Panharmonicon level power, maybe even more so.
I can just feel it. I don't know, but I can just feel that it is breakable.
Oh, of course. What you just said is broken.
And if that's a draw spell, then you just make profit, right? Yeah. If it costs me 4 mana to draw a couple cards and I get 7 back, and that
it's
if one of those is another Mana Rock, I can cast that Mana Rock and untap them all and get more mana next time for the next thing.
Currently pre-selling for just under $10, so
people can tell.
Yeah, people know.
It reeks of power.
Yeah, exactly. Paradox Engine, a new card that I'd be happy to see the masterpiece of too, which is not normal.
Yeah. Is there a masterpiece of this?
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Okay, sure.
The masterpiece is $74.99. Okay, Paradox Engine.
Yep.
Very powerful card.
Planar Bridge, 6 colorless, 6 generic, for a legendary artifact. 8, tap. Search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
Are you kidding with Paradox Engine?
Well, you don't cast it, though. So it will never untap with Paradox Engine because you didn't cast it. You just put it onto the battlefield. So you will miss. I didn't
even mean that. I just meant like you still get to cast things and untap all your artifacts with this. It. Cast another little spell. Untap it. Do it again. Like and even then, just with casting spells from your hand.
Sure. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Planar Bridge. So this card is incredible because like it costs a boatload of mana. But this format has a boatload of mana.
It says pay 14 mana over two separate turns or in the one turn and get any permanent card on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's very expensive, but
not even that hard in Commander.
It's a must answer too because I like to think of it this way. It costs 6 to get down on the board, not tons. Right? I can probably have a turn where I'll cast this and still do a thing.
Sure.
Right? Leave some mana up for an activated ability. I don't know.
Right.
But then next turn, Demonic Tutor is a 2 mana spell that puts something into your hand. And the reason we like Demonic Tutor is because it's cheap enough that you can cast the thing you get.
Right.
Well, this is sort of like, sure, it's like Demonic Tutor for a 6-drop.
Yeah, good call.
Every turn, or more, right?
Demonic Tutor for your Eldrazi.
Sure. Again, you're not going to get to cast them, so you're not going to get those cast triggers,
right, yeah.
But like, we only run Eldrazi for that Annihilator anyway.
Yeah, most of the time it's cheating those guys into play anyways.
Yeah,
so
right?
What's the
Who
difference,
cares?
Right? This is no doubt a powerful card.
No doubt.
Selling for about $6 right now. And this is all pre-order price, so this could drop, this could go up. You know, we don't know, obviously.
No.
Next one is Metallic Mimic. It's 2 generic for a 2/1 artifact creature shapeshifter. As Metallic Mimic enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Metallic Mimic is the chosen type in addition to its other types, and each other creature you control of a chosen type enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it.
No brainer for tribal decks.
Yeah, right? This feels like this is something that can be broken as well, I feel like. Making it the same creature type. I think I saw some combo with this on Reddit, and I've since forgotten about it now. But
it probably involves graft.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Anyways, Metallic Mimic. Fun little card. Definitely, like you said, definitely a tribal card. Probably really great in those in vampire decks. I know vampires like to have a lot of +1/+1 counters on them.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? We all do.
Even like a goblin
your
deck.
Rishkar deck would love this, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I probably should have. I probably didn't because it's a little pricey right now.
Oh, it is? Yeah, well, it's $350. So.
$350, but like, you know.
Is it? Yeah.
Well, when you got to make cuts, like, it's like $350 for this? That's a cut.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But if it drops down to less than $1, easy.
I think it should. It's not that good.
I hope so.
Okay, those are the colorless cards. We've got some interesting new creatures.
Yes.
That we want to talk about.
These have colors in their mana cost, so they're only good in certain decks. But the first one we want to talk about is...
oh, wait, no, you have another...
we missed some. How did we miss it?
I don't know how that happened.
Oh, we only got to... we were only halfway through.
Oh, we were? Oh, sorry. I thought that was the end for some reason. Okay, never mind. We're back on artifacts.
Yeah.
Life Crafter's Bestiary. Did you read that one?
3 generic for an artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card. This is great because it has green in its color identity, but mono green has very hard time scrying.
So can it even do it?
Like you have to use things like Crystal Ball and like pay mana and tap things, but this just happens every turn. That's huge for green. This is also an ability that green decks love. There's that creature, I forget now, but like whenever you cast creature spells, you get to draw a card. I would take several more instances of that effect. Even though I have to pay 1 green to do it, extra card draw in green is welcome. Not to mention that scry. How many green decks run Garrick's Horde? You want to scry and just choose what's on the top of your grave?
You mean Garrick's Pack Leader?
Pack Leader.
Oh, no, wait. Are you talking about
where you get to look at the top of your...
Okay, so
although that is upkeep, so you'll never get to cast them because you'll draw it after you see it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all good. It's a much wanted ability in a mono green deck. I think all mono green decks will probably want to add one of these.
Green white decks, green white token decks.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's cast a creature spell, so like sometimes you don't get your token spells or sorceries or whatever. But it's still a good way for. I mean, green's decent at drawing cards. Obviously, blue is the best, probably followed by black, and then green is, I'd say, the third best one.
Sure.
So they're not exactly like hurting so badly, but when you pair them with red, when you pair them with white, this is a card that I think you're going to include for sure.
Huge.
Great card. How much is it? I wanted to just check how much it's. Oh, it's $1.50 right now. Great. Next one we have here is Crackdown Construct. 4 generic for a 2/2 artifact creature construct. Whenever you activate an ability of an artifact or creature that isn't a mana ability, Crackdown Construct gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
So this is the one. This is in here just to mention because people are talking about its combo that is currently in Standard with Wandering Fumarole. It's that mana land that you can spend 0 to swap its power and toughness. So that is a free activated ability. So if you are attacking with a Wandering Fumarole, even if you're not attacking with it, if you have a Wandering Fumarole and you attack with Crackdown Construct, they must block it. If you can give it trample, you just activate Wandering Fumarole and then activate its ability infinity times. Yeah. And then he is an infinity. Just putting that out.
That is worth mentioning because there are other free activated abilities
in our format.
Yeah, right. Like not a ton of them, but there are definitely some that just allows this guy to get infinitely large. And then what can you do with an infinitely large creature?
I don't know.
Sacrifice it and gain life, whatever. Right? Like there's so many different things you can do with it. So yeah,
fling it. Stout arm it.
Yeah, right. You can bosh it. No, bosh is mana cost. I think.
Bosh it.
Bosh is mana cost.
Flip it.
Bosh it. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. A little bit more narrow, but certainly something to look at. Next.
This is Cogwork Assemble. This is 3 generic for an artifact assembly worker. It's a 2/3. It's expensive ability. It's 7 generic. Create a token that's a copy of a target artifact. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. It's a lot of mana.
It's a lot.
But I'm sure there's a deck that would want this out there. I don't know it yet, but like, for example, Wormcoil Engine, right? It's expensive, but I will take another Wormcoil Engine that when it has to exile
you
it.
exile it.
But
you can sacrifice it.
You can sacrifice it and get those worms, and those worms are forever.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of artifacts tap for very potent effects, so you can just get another one of those and just tap it again for that. I think it's overcosted like this because you can't just copy like a mana rock and get more mana from it.
Ah, yes, that makes sense.
And that's the main reason.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Anyway.
Interesting. Cogwork Assembler, though, I mean, the potential is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a good job by making that a high mana cost, so it's not so abusable, and I think that's probably going to keep it out of some decks that would otherwise really want it.
We want to abuse things,
but
though.
I think it is worthy of being put in some cool artifacts.
Think about it. Think
about it. And this is our actual last one.
Yes,
time.
for sure.
It's Universal Solvent. Now this is a common. This is interesting. You don't usually talk a lot about commons, but it's a 1 mana artifact, and it just says 7 and tap it. Sacrifice Universal Solvent. Destroy target permanent.
So this might sound familiar to Unstable Obelisk.
Yes.
It's exactly the same, except Unstable Obelisk can tap for a colorless mana.
Right.
And it costs 3 to cast.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like, would you ever want both? I think if you're only going to pick one.
I'll tell you why you want both.
Why?
Because mono blue, mono red have, and even mono black have very hard time dealing with enchantments.
Yep.
And or artifacts, depending on what color you are.
There you go.
Right? Black doesn't really deal with enchantments very, very well. Red certainly never touches enchantments, right? So Universal Solvent, and I know this from having a mono red deck, that you want abilities that destroy permanents like this. And this is recurable, again, in a Duretti deck.
That's
You might
true.
look at it and say 7, ooh, that's a lot. But I'm happy to have this ability in that deck all the time.
You know what, actually? I have a Brea brew that I'm going for 1 mana artifacts because you can trinket mage it.
Yeah, you can trinket mage this. That's huge.
You can also, right? And there's also, it's not blasting station. It's the assembly. There's one of the stations that you tap it to return a 1 mana artifact from the graveyard to your hand.
Yeah.
So like this is now eligible for that.
It is like 7 is a lot to pay to destroy a permanent, but sometimes you just need to destroy a permanent. And you'll pay 7 mana for it and be happy about it.
Universal Solvent. It dissolves everything.
I agree that it's not as good as, what's it called?
Unstable
Obelisk. It's not as good because obviously that has abilities beyond just the 7 mana one. But I do think there are decks where you want both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, Universal Solvent. Cool card. And it's a fun thing to have on a common, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk creatures now?
Let's talk creatures now. Here we go.
Alrighty, let's talk about Exquisite Archangel. 5 white for an angel. 5/5 flying. If you would lose the game, instead exile Exquisite Archangel and your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. What?
How does this even work?
So, I mean, rules-wise,
so it's not even like, it doesn't work with triggers or anything like that. Like, it's just straight up, it's a replacement, I guess, right?
Yeah, if you would lose the game.
If and instead, right?
Right, so if you take lethal damage, you would lose the game, but instead you exile this, and then your life total becomes 40. So if you have a way to spend life, and you have a Felidar Sovereign on the board, you're just going to do all that.
You can't spend more life than you have, though.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Although you could kill yourself if it's Xaxes, right? Like if it's like an ability that says pay 1 life and you're at 1 life,
you're allowed to pay it.
You're allowed to pay it.
Yeah.
You just lose.
Yeah.
But you can't pay 2 life if you only have 1 life.
Correct.
Right.
I don't think it will save you from poison or decking because it'll reset your life total, but then you'll still have 10 poison counters. So I think you'll immediately die on the next time state-based actions are checked, which is right away.
Which is right away.
So I think it only helps against damage.
Right.
But
which is the most common way of dying.
But heck, man, like that's not a bad that's it. It would suck to see my opponent drop one of these, and I'm just like, are you kidding me?
So now you have to kill this and then kill them.
Yeah, or kill them once. Like if they're already at like 10, you can be like, all right, fine, attack you for 15. No blocks. I know. And it's like
back to 40.
Back to 40. I know.
Leave me alone. Yeah, this is cool. This is right alongside
Platinum Angel. Yeah, they're buddies. They're good buddies.
Yep, they're good buddies. This won't save you from commander damage either, though. That's important to note.
Correct. It will not save you because you have taken that damage from commander, even though your life total is still 40.
Yeah.
Because that state-based action will just be like, no.
Does this person have 21 points of commander damage on them? Yes, they do. Goodbye.
You just get to say, you get to have state-based actions say goodbye to you twice.
Yeah, exactly. If you died from a poisoned commander, too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. All right. Exquisite Argent, though, great card. Very good. Oh, yeah, this one is fun. We had a discussion on this one ourselves. Quicksmith Spy. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 human artificer. When Quicksmith Spy enters the battlefield, target artifact you control gains. Tap, draw a card for as long as you control Quicksmith Spy. So I automatically was like, oh, are there any artifacts with the untap symbol in them that you pay for anything? And none of them, there are, but none of them are like just untap it for free and do something. So they're all untap and pay this much and then do something.
Yes.
So there is no like infinite draw combo with any artifact.
Although, is there any enchantment that lets you untap itself for mana that you could enchant an artifact with? I just thought of this.
There are some.
Penman's Aura.
There's got to be some stuff with. You pay 1 blue for that.
But like, if you can somehow turn your Gilded Lotus into a creature and give it Penman's Aura, then you tap it for the blues, untap it for that 1 blue, tap it from our blue, tap it to draw a card. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And infinite mana.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a lot of stuff there. You're talking about making an artifact a creature and then in putting an aura.
Yeah, right.
Using Quicksmith Spy. It's a lot of cards.
So what have we discovered? We've discovered that this unlocks a new 5-card combo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, big deal.
Well, probably, and I'd say there's probably something out there that it's even better than a 5-card combo. There's probably Gilder Baron, this, and what's the card that you tap and make anything an artifact?
Liquid metal
coating.
Yeah.
There you go. That's one, right?
There you go.
That's
broken.
Draw as many
we just
cards
broke
as you
this
want.
card.
There you go. Bam. So Quicksmith Spy is definitely something I think you're going to see in Commander decks.
Yeah, and even if it's not for the combo, like so many artifacts don't care if they're tapped or untapped. You're just going to get extra cards out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah.
Like a piece of equipment, like your Swiftfoot boots. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if they're tapped or untapped; they don't change. So you're just going to draw cards off of them every turn.
It's basically Quicksmith Spy has tap draw a card.
Kinda.
Right? Like you're putting it somewhere else, but it only exists as long as she's out anyway. So
yeah, so maybe when you analyze it that way, maybe it's worse than the other cards that say tap draw a card.
Well, it gives it to an artifact which won't have summoning sickness, so there's that, and and you can untap artifacts in interesting ways. Maybe I don't know.
What about that thing that when you cast a spell, everything untaps?
Yeah.
That first artifact we talked about.
Yeah, but that's any
spell.
Any spell, but anything untaps. Like any creature, like Arcanus, the Omnipotent.
That's true.
Right? He draws 3 cards.
Yeah, that's a better combo with that thing. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so I think it's okay, and I think though you might find it in those broken artifact combo decks.
Yeah, the category is called interesting creatures, so it's interesting.
Yeah. What else we got?
Restoration Specialist, 1 and a white, Dwarf Artificer, 2/1. White. This is activated ability. White. Sacrifice Restoration Specialist. Return up to 1 target artifact card and up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. That's just good recursion, right? Getting 2 for 1. That's decent. And if you're getting any sort of bonus from sacrificing things, if you're running in a black-white deck, this is great. Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, I think you're gonna find this in a lot of like taking the place of maybe like an Auramancer. Even though Auramancer has the added ability of like you can blink it and get its ability going, but Restoration Specialist has the ability of recur it, and you also get an artifact, right?
Yeah.
So depending on the deck, I think you're right. Black white decks are going to use this for for some.
I think so. I don't know.
I think I would put this in a Daxos black-white Daxos deck.
Yeah, for sure for the enchantments.
Yeah, get those enchantments back, and then get an artifact back on top of it. And plus, it's black, so we're using the graveyard. I think this is a good card for that.
Yeah.
Ridge Scale Tusker is next, 3 and 2 green for a 5/5 beast that says when Ridge Scale Tusker enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Just a cool anthem-y type card that is going to be decent in stuff like Mareth and any of those. Again, Rishkar wants this card.
Rishkar, if you haven't already built it so everything already has counters, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like,
just going to be helpful.
It's just something to think about.
This card's not great. Like, there's lots of cards that do this.
I know.
It is okay.
Like, if you have a +1/+1 counter deck already, you're probably not going to find a cut that's worth making to put this in. I'm not really sure. But it's just something to think about. It's out there. Salvage Scuttler, 4 and a blue, crab, 4/4. Whenever Salvage Scuttler attacks, return an artifact you control to its owner's hand.
Interesting.
Yeah, it seems like you can abuse that.
Yeah. Are there many artifacts with ETB effects?
Yeah. I mean, the Puzzle Knots most recently.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Energy decks might want it for that reason.
Maybe. You could get your Mana Rock back and retap it. Like, it's probably interesting with, like, Mana Vault. So you cast it for 1, tap it for 3. But then the mana disappears because I don't know. Maybe it's not as good as I thought.
Trophy Mage is a good one, though. 2 and a blue for a 2/2. When Trophy Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 3 exactly. Reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. So we have Trinket Mage, we have
Treasure
Mage, and we have Trophy Mage. We got 1, 3, and 6.
Yeah, we just got to get 3 more mages.
Yeah, we've got to get
2, 4, and 5.
Like Tool Mage and.
But they have to be TR. Like,
right,
Trophy,
You're
Trinket,
right.
Treasure, right? So, like, Trouble Mage gets 5s.
Trumpet Mage.
Yeah.
Search for a 4-mana trumpet.
Yeah. And Tribble Mage.
Tribble Mage, yeah. But this is a good card. This gets a lot of mana rocks.
Mana rocks. Ashnod's Altar.
This gets a lot of stuff.
Whisper Silk Cloak.
Oh my god, yeah. It gets
Burnished Heart, if you want.
Commander Sphere. Burnished Heart. It gets...
all of the fancy swords. The non-budget swords.
Yeah.
Swords of blank and blank.
Yeah. This is going to be an inclusion in a lot of decks. Because of that. If you're running those swords.
Yeah, like one mana artifacts are kind of niche. 6 mana artifacts, if you have them, you know what they are. But like, there's a surprising amount of 3s.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of 3s. Yeah, this is a good card. Gonna see this around. Blank decks want this. All kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Artifact decks want it.
Yeah.
Great card.
Let's talk about Druid of the Cowl. 1 and a green. Tap, add green to your mana pool. It's an elf druid. It's 1/3. It's another mana dork. If your deck wants mana dorks, here's another one for you.
Here's another one. Common. Probably not going to use it though because you've got your Land of War Elves.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's move on to non-creature
But this is where we're
spells.
at now, right? Like if you're starting your Magic career right now and you are building your EDH deck out of stuff you're drafting and out of stuff that's current, this is your mana dork.
True.
Anyways, okay.
So let's talk about non-creature spells. And there's one cycle that we're not going to necessarily go deep on all the cards on it, but they're all the expertise cycle, right? So Rishkar's expertise is the biggest one, and it makes sense to start with the biggest one, and you'll see why. This is the green one. 4 green sorcery. They're all sorcery. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. That's a useful ability in a mono green deck. A lot of big fatties rolling around. Here's the common cycle part. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Now that is 1 CMC less than its main CMC. They all work this way. The green one costs 6, and it draws you cards equal to the greatest power. The blue one bounces, I think, 3 creatures or 2 creatures. It costs 5. I don't think that's great in our format.
No.
It's fine, but like it's too expensive at sorcery speed. The white one at 4 CMC sorcery speed gets you 3 servos. You might want that if you're a token deck.
Token deck might be into that, yeah.
Because then you're going to cast a 3 CMC for free. Like that starts to get worth it
Yep.
in a token deck. The black one is 4 CMC, and it gives everything -3/-3. That doesn't do enough in our format.
No, like indestructible tokens, possibly.
Great.
How often do you see that, though?
I mean, it just kills tokens in general if they're small, but like it doesn't do enough. And then the red one is 3 CMC, and it's just a threaten. So it's already small, and like the smaller they get, the less effective their bonus is because you're casting smaller, less effective things. I don't know.
Certainly good in like other formats, like the 3 CMC one that threatens, and you get to put a 2/2 out or whatever. Like that's a pretty good turn for red in a limited game or even a standard game.
That might even be good in a cube for your red aggressive stuff. You can just like threaten their thing, drop a hasty 2-drop, and just attack for a lot.
But surely here, what we're talking about is the cast a card for free. That's always somewhat, edging on broken. When you can do stuff like that.
And only the green one seems worth playing in most commander decks, unless your deck is geared around casting spells like Stormy type of stuff. Yeah. Obviously, that's a special case.
Yeah. Disallow is 1 blue, counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability.
We got it.
This is crazy. This is a good spell.
Yeah, it does it all.
As if you hadn't taken out all your cancels already from your decks. I mean, now you really have to, because disallow. I mean, before it was dissipate is a better cancel
because it exiles.
Yeah, and then there's the one that scries from Theros, which is the same thing, just strictly better.
Yeah.
And disallow is now that as well, except this is even better arguably than those other two, because this also stops activated abilities or triggered abilities.
Yes, this is there aren't a lot of cards that do that. I think this is worth turning a counter spell into, like, trading a counter spell for a disallow. It still goes to their graveyard, which can be a drawback, but the flexibility. There's some commanders that have activated abilities that just crush you, and you're just like, well, not this time.
Yeah, exactly. And it all will always come out of nowhere, because even though we know these abilities do exist, they are so rare that I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to game end win this because I get to, use a high market.
Yeah,
that actually happened to me once.
Oh.
It was against Josh and Jimmy, actually. When I was in LA, Josh was going to sacrifice a guy, and that was going to allow him to survive a turn, for him to kill me next turn. But I had something that countered an activated ability.
Nice.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
What's next?
Fatal Push is a single black. It's an instant. Destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. But it's got Revolt. If a permanent of yours left the battlefield this turn, you get to destroy target creature with converted mana cost 4 or less. This has the most buzz around it because it's going to change how Modern plays. So, I mean, right now it's uncommon that's pre-selling for $5.
Yeah.
So, like, if you open any of these, just in a draft, grab them and just sell them back for a couple of bucks. You can probably do that right away. In our format, Revolt is very easy to achieve. And, like, there's a lot of commanders that are 4 mana, so, like, it's not a useless ability, but I don't think it's wide-ranging enough for our format. I think the price spike and the demand is exclusively for Standard and Modern.
Yeah, I agree, and it's worthy, though, to mention it on a Commander podcast for that reason. If you find it, sell it.
Yeah, man. Right? Because...
it's very rare that uncommons out of the pack are worth $5.
Right. Any card that is amazing in Standard but terrible for terrible for Commander, if you ever doing drafts, these are great cards to open because you can just... It's like you live in another country with different currency, and like, oh, you value these greatly? Ooh, good, I value these greatly, and everybody wins. It's great.
It's great. Another one we have here is Whir of Invention. It's X and blue for an instant that with Improvise, so you can tap your artifacts to help cast this. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Great.
Pretty neat.
It's a Court of Calling, but for artifacts.
Yeah.
Great. Sounds awesome. Court of Calling is a great card in Commander. I don't see why Whir of Invention would not be a great card in Commander.
Yeah, man.
Great. What's next?
Heroic Intervention. 1 and a green, instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This is an ability that white has access to, but green has not had easy access to until now.
The indestructibility part.
There you go. Instant speed, your wrath don't count.
Hexproof is also nice. I mean, probably actually the less useful part for commander. More useful in probably some other formats. But this will save a commander from being exiled as well because of that hexproof. Like if it's a spot, if it's like Swords and Plowshares or something. Yeah. And I've always been a fan of the card Rootborn Defenses. And kind of like turned our meta onto that card.
Oh my god, bit. Yeah. You changed our meta single-handedly. We always I remember we didn't think about wraths. We just played huge creatures and they destroyed everybody. Then one day someone was like, how about wraths? And we were like, oh. And then we got used to wraths. And then one day we wrath, and then Andy goes, Rootborn Defenses. My guys are indestructible. All your guys are dead. Oh, like it just totally changed the game. So
and the number of times I've been burned from someone else now playing Rootborn Defenses is like so high. So So I really do think it's a great card. So Heroic Intervention is a cheaper green version of it, and that has more utility.
Green is happy to get this card.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Lifecraft Awakening X green. You know I love me some X spells. Instant. Put X 1/1 counters on target artifact you control. If it isn't a creature or vehicle, it becomes a 0/0 construct artifact creature.
Weird.
This is another way. I bring this up because this is like how a Liquimetal Cooling wants to make creatures artifacts. There might be an artifact you want to make in a creature so that you can do untap and tap shenanigans with it.
That's smart.
This is why this card is interesting in our format.
It is.
It's no big deal to put a few counters on like a Sol Ring and attack with it, but we want to shenanigans it up.
That's a very good point. You know what? I just read this card and was like, why did he put this one in here? But you're right. We were just talking about this thing that you can do with
Liquimetal Cooling and
coating and Quicksmith Spy. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Definitely one to look out for. The next one is Indomitable Creativity. It's a mythic. It's X red for a sorcery that says destroy X target artifacts and or creatures. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until an artifact or creature card is revealed and exiles that card. Those players put the exiled cards onto the battlefield and then shuffle their library. So it's like Chaos Warp with more targets, but it doesn't tuck them. It tries to destroy them.
And it can't whiff.
Right. Exactly. So you get that downside of like, if it's indestructible, you can't do it, but it will never whiff.
Yeah, I can
Which is bad because you want the other people to whiff.
Yes. So I think what we need to think about is like, do I want this in my deck for my stuff? Like, do I want to, like, if I have a lot of artifact tokens or creature tokens, do I want to do this on my own stuff and get real card permanence out of them?
Yeah, you'll get either artifacts or creatures. So this could be something to think about. Whereas, like, I've got 5 tokens out, pay 8 mana for Indomitable Cruelty, and get 5 spells.
Right. Like, a lot of Goblin decks run, cards that generate goblin tokens. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hit the instants and sorceries. You have to hit a permanent. But great, I'll kill 4 goblins to get my Siege Gang and my Beetleback Chief and Krenko or something. Right?
Goblins,
you're for sure up.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah, like it's better in your deck.
Next we have Release the Gremlins.
This is red XX. Destroy X target artifacts. Create X 2/2 red gremlin creature tokens. We always like spells that have better than a 1-for-1, but we don't want to lose card advantage. So here we can destroy multiple artifacts, and we get stuff for it. We get 2/2 little gremlins, and I cannot wait to see that token.
Yeah, it's going to be a cute little token. So, like, I think a reasonable scenario for this card is to pay 5, to pay 4 generic, and then 1 red, and destroy 2 target artifacts, and then create 2 2/2s, which is reasonable.
We can do better.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can pay 3 just to destroy 1 crucial artifact is awesome. Mm-hmm. And if it's late in the game, you can destroy 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. Mizzix.
Ooh, always, yeah, right? Mizzix. There probably isn't enough artifacts for you to hit.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mizzix can destroy every artifact and make as many 2/2s as there are, yeah.
And I guess, you have to pick Do you have to pick different targets?
No, you don't have to, right? Destroy X target artifacts. Can't you destroy this?
I forget, but if something says destroy 2 target creatures, there has to be 2 eligible creatures.
Yes.
So
maybe that's not how this works.
Yeah, you can't overpay just for more gremlins.
Because you decide what you're paying first, and then X becomes that number on the card, right? Essentially.
And I think that's when you pick your targets too. I don't know.
So this says destroy. So if you paid 5, you destroy 2 target artifacts. So you must have 2 target artifacts.
I think so.
Yeah, because it's not up to.
I think so.
Right. Okay. Next is Reverse Engineer. 3 blue for a sorcery that has improvise and says draw 3 cards. So if you've got 3 artifacts, this is blue. Draw 3 cards.
It's a little bit more expensive than Ancestral Recall. It's not bad.
Right. It's not bad. Always good to highlight the draw spells.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a heavy artifact deck, this might well be worth it for you.
Sure. Mechanized Production, 2 blue enchantment. Enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game.
This is an alternate win con.
Yeah.
It's also a way to create copies of really good artifacts.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to look at this. You can either put it on things like clues or thopters or any sort of token. Although, as I read this, then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, not necessarily enchanted by this thing.
Exactly.
So you can put this on a hex-proof artifact and then just generate a bunch of mirrors and win.
Exactly.
Cool. Anyway.
If you can find a way to flash this card in an artifact deck, you can often just win with it.
Boy.
Whether it's you're creating thopters, mirrors, clues, whatever it is, right? Servos even. Mechanized Production can be just win the game.
Thopters, mirrors, clues, brews, mopters, beers.
Whoa. I want to see the beers token.
I want to see mopters.
Here's a mopter.
Yeah.
We're getting more oaths. I love it.
Yeah, every time someone joins this is how you join the Gatewatch. You take an oath.
Yeah, you take an oath, and then we make a wicked card about it. Yeah, about Planeswalkers.
Oath of Ajani, green, white, legendary enchantment. When Oath of Ajani enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This might be the thing that we want. It also says Planeswalker spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. That's huge if you're Super Friends.
Yep.
Super Friends wants this card big time.
Wants it in there. I would have liked it more if it was like, when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each.
Oh, too much.
Maybe too much.
Too much for 2.
Maybe too much. But whatever, it's awesome. This is a great card.
Yeah.
Like you said. This is an auto-included My Marith token Super Friends
deck. There you go. It's pricey right now. I hope it comes down.
It's $3.
Only 3? Well, the amount of buzz that's around it, I assumed it would be at least 5.
Yeah, no, $3.
Cool.
And I would
what it is?
this will probably go down in price.
I think because here everyone's going nuts because like, get in on turn 3, man. White 1. You play this on turn 2, and it's like, yeah, but I could also play a Mana Dark on turn 2 and still do Gideon on turn 3. That was never Gideon on 3 was always a thing.
Yeah. Anyways, Oath of Ajani. Good card though. It's legendary enchantment. We didn't mention that. Next one is Aid from the Cowl.
This is 3 green for an enchantment. It's got Revolt. So the way the enchantments with Revolt, it checks at the end of your end step. So this can happen every turn cycle. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you may put it on the bottom. So at the end of every turn, you just get a free permanent off the top if it happens to be a permanent.
Interesting. My old decks are probably going to be into this.
Yeah. Any super creature or permanent heavy deck is going to want it, right? Probably Animar wants this, right? Just free extra stuff. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Aid from the Cowl. The green-blue flicker decks, the Bant flicker decks.
Yeah.
Green-black sacrifice decks probably into this.
Especially if you have any sort of great library manipulation, just make sure you got something great on top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next is Call for Unity. It's 3 white for an enchantment with Revolt. And it says at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, put a Unity counter on Call for Unity. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Unity counter on Call for Unity. So it's a 5-mana anthem that doesn't actually do anything the first turn it comes in unless you can make something leave the battlefield.
And then it only starts working at the end of your turn.
Right. So it's
not slow to go.
So here's the thing. I used to like be into things like this. The Door of Destinies also is something where it's like an anthem, but it doesn't affect really until the next turn if you're casting it on turn 6 when you can cast Door of Destinies. Call for Unity is similar in that way, but usually what you want to do is you want to drop an anthem and then attack, right? So you want to have all your tokens, drop maybe even 2 anthems because there's a lot of cheap ones in white, and then all my guys are buffed, and then they go in and swing. So Call for Unity doesn't really let you do that. And it costs 5.
And it's slow. It's only once around the table.
Yeah.
So like by the time you get 2/2, you've had 2 full turns. I might as well just run Dictate of Heliod.
Yeah, Dictate of Heliod is just better than this.
Yeah, now that I think about it, this card is not nearly as good as I thought.
Anyways, it is something because there is an upside to this card, though. Because if you're in a deck that is able to make Revolt happen a lot, and you can keep it around, this thing can be huge. This can be an anthem for +5, +6, +7.
Eventually.
Has to stick around, though, for a pretty long time.
For too long.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pia's Revolution then.
Sure, there's a 2 and a red enchantment. Whenever a non-token artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to your hand unless target opponent has Pia's Revolution, deal 3 damage to him or her. This is the Athreos God of Passage ability, but instead of creatures, it's for artifacts.
Non-token artifacts.
Non-token artifacts. That's what makes it
Which makes sense because you can return a token to your hand.
Oh, that's true. I guess the Athreos one lets you do it to tokens, but it doesn't matter because your opponent will always choose to return it. So it just confuses things.
So it says the same thing.
Yes, it does.
So
effectively,
yeah.
I don't know if you want that. Like if you're in a red, a lot of sack abilities with artifacts. That's what happens in those decks. I can see this being a decent ad.
I think it is a very good ad. Yeah, the amount of sacrificing you can do is how good this card is, though.
Yeah.
So if you're sacrificing tokens, obviously you're not happy about it. But if you can find some recursion thing where it's like it's a loop and you're doing that a lot,
give me them loops.
Get a trading post out with this card.
Oh yeah.
See how much you can do a lot of damage with it. We underestimate the ability to do 3 damage to someone's face, but it is powerful.
It adds up.
Yeah. What do we got here? Consulate Crackdown, 3 and 2 white. For an enchantment that just says, when Consulate Crackdown enters the battlefield, exile all artifacts your opponents control until it leaves the battlefield. So it's a O-ring, it's an Oblivion Ring for all your opponent's artifacts at once. That's pretty good.
Like, it exiles them.
Yep.
So who cares if indestructible? Who cares about anything? Yes, they can get them back, but they have to have enchantment removal to do it, and I'll take a lightning rod for enchantment removal any day that's this powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like I take all your mana rocks. They're all gone.
I take all of your tokens that you're made with Jor-Kadeen.
Yeah, right?
Oh,
I hope you don't have too many of those artifact lands cuz they're gone too.
Oh man, yeah, this is a good card. I think you're going to include this.
I think so.
If you've ever used an O-ring to take out someone's artifact, I mean, this is obviously costs more, but you hit way more things with it.
And it's just opponents.
Yeah, it's just opponents.
It's great.
Yeah, very good.
Efficient Construction, 3 blue enchantment. When you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That's just good value.
Yeah, this is... Oh man, is there a way to abuse this with improvise and that card that gives everything improvise? Although that's casting artifact spells, that's only casting non-artifact. Anyways, it just seems something that your tribal Thopter deck is going to want.
Yep.
Right?
But it won't be led by the Thopter because this is blue.
Well, Brea's the Thopter.
Yeah, we have to assume that she's the head of the Gyruper, Hope of Gyruper deck.
So those are the sort of, cards that we thought were interesting enough to point out, talk about. Some are rare, some are mythic, some are uncommons and commons, though.
Yeah. Which
is interesting. I'll admit, looking at this set, I wasn't super stoked about it. But I've come around a little bit. And we still have one category to go here because
we'll go quick on it.
Yeah, because we like to talk about the flashy cards even if they are expensive. So the Planeswalkers are always worth mentioning just because everyone loves them so much, even though they may not be the best for EDH. So let's quickly look at Ajani Unyielding. Now, Ajani Unyielding, this is the one that comes in Aether Revolt, right?
Yeah, so the first two we talk about are the ones that you can open in Aether Revolt packs.
Right.
But there are two other ones that are another Ajani and another Tezzeret that are only in those like Commander dual decks.
Right, okay.
So we'll talk about those, and just, spoiler, I think the dual deck ones are better for Commander.
Really? Okay,
I think
let's
so.
see. Okay, so Ajani Unyielding is the one you open in packs, and it's 4 green-white for 4 loyalty Planeswalker Ajani. It says +2, reveal the top 3 cards of your library, put each non-land permanent card revealed this way in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. That is good. That's a fine ability.
Card advantage.
Yep, card advantage. -2 is exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power, so it's a Swords to Plowshares.
Useful?
Except for power. The other one's toughness, isn't it?
Swords is power.
Swords is power? Okay.
Yeah, the swords are the power.
And then -9 for the ultimate, which is notable because you can't doubling season this ultimate because he's only a 4 loyalty.
Oh, that's right. He's still short.
Yeah, he's still short one. But -9 is put 5 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control and 5 loyalty counters on each other Planeswalker you control.
So if you can ultimate him, you're going to ultimate all your other super friends.
Which is probably why they made it that you can't doubling season his ultimate.
Yeah. Yeah, has
Although
to
I guess if you already have doubling season out, you're probably doing pretty good with your Planeswalkers.
Yeah, right?
anyways,
Like,
right?
who cares?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's a fine Super Friends commander. I don't know how many green-white decks are going to want this guy.
He doesn't seem to do anything on his own that's that powerful that I really want him in a deck.
Yeah, and especially in the Planeswalkers are very fragile in that they can be attacked and killed.
True.
And damage can be pointed at your face and redirected to them. So they're easy to kill.
Yeah.
Because they can die in combat. So, yeah, I don't think this is a great commander card, although it is playable for sure.
Here's the Tezzeret. Tezzeret the Schemer. 2 blue-black. You get 5 loyalty to start with, +1. Create a colorless artifact token named Ethereum Cell with tap. Sacrifice this artifact. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. It's a real jumping through a lot of hoops to get an extra mana for, but whatever.
Yeah, sure.
-2. Target creature gets +X -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control. So that will almost certainly kill a creature anyway. So this is basically parallel to Ajani's other ability.
Kind of, yeah.
It's going to work on anything. -7. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 5/5. I think there was another Tezzeret that's ultimated by doing this to all your artifacts.
Yeah.
So this guy's obviously just worse.
But he's only 2 away from hitting his ultimate.
Yeah, and maybe his
still
ultimate,
a decent emblem.
It's decent. Maybe his emblem isn't scary enough that people will let you do it.
Yeah, I don't know. This one is...
It doesn't... I don't... I'm not drawn to it in any way as a commander player.
Yeah, me neither. The dedicated artifact deck with blue-black in it, I guess it's fine, but is it going to be worth paying, $12 for it? I don't know.
So here's the ones that come in the Planeswalker dual decks, right? These ones seem better to me.
Yeah, all right. Let's get into it.
So we'll start with the Tezzeret here. Tezzeret Master of Metal. Costs more, 4 blue-black, and you start with 5 loyalty, +1. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You're guaranteed to hit an artifact. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ajani isn't guaranteed to hit a permanent.
Wait, Ajani is?
The one before, you just draw 3 cards and put permanents in.
Oh, you're right.
You might
so
not
yeah, you
hit
look at the
right?
top 3. This one's just reveal until you hit one. Yeah.
So you don't need to be only artifacts. You can just put one kick-ass artifact in there and you'll get it every time.
Yeah.
-3. Target opponent loses life equal to the number of artifacts you control. Okay, you're going to want to be artifacts.
You're going to want to be artifacts.
Sure.
Yeah.
-8. Gain control of all artifacts and creatures target opponent controls. Well, now that's an ultimate.
Yeah.
Right?
That's an ultimate.
All artifacts and creatures target player controls? Yeah, okay.
I get it. I get it. So what they did was they made this one appeal more to commander and casual players, and they made the other one probably better for constructed.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay, and the other Ajani that you get in the dual deck type thing, whatever it's called, 4 green, white, so same price for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. It's +2 is put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature. Okay. +1, so it doesn't have a middle minus ability. It's a +1. Reveal the top cards of your library until a creature card is revealed. Put it into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
I like that.
That's cool. So this guarantees you getting to your next creature.
And it's still a plus.
And it's ultimate. This has got to be one of the biggest ultimates. -11. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature where X is equal to your life total. That creature gains trample until end of turn. So just win.
It's not too different from the gain 100.
Yeah,
thing,
I love
right?
Johnny's ridiculous ultimates that it has.
A Johnny ridiculous ultimates.
Yeah. I
like this better.
I like it a bit better. It doesn't have like a removal spell on it, which is usually pretty good.
But the other one technically only has I guess it has 2, but you do it once. It can't protect itself, so you're probably not going to get another one out of it.
I guess it protects itself in that it can remove a creature. Same thing.
One creature though, but like in our format, you don't have just one threat.
Oh, I know.
Right? Like I don't think so, but I would much rather just tutor for a creature.
Yeah.
Not tutor, but like just I want another one.
Give me the first one. Yeah.
Give me one.
Give me my next creature.
Give me.
Right now.
I don't love it, but I do think it's better for our format. I think you nailed it. I think they're building commanders now so that they have the standard ones and the commander ones, and that's just good for us because the commander ones will likely be cheaper.
Yeah, like this one's $7, and I can't really see what the other one was, but anyway,
because there's no random price. Like you know, like when you buy one of these, you know you're getting one, so you can exactly spend this amount and have it.
Yes, exactly. Interesting and fun. I like that this is happening.
Me too.
Like it is cool to create a more casual planeswalker because they are such a fun card type to use.
Yeah.
And make it geared more towards the casual players and the EDH players.
You know, more stuff for my format is good for me.
Yep, definitely. Okay, well that's it. That's the set review. Overall, I will say, like I said earlier, I was a little down on it, but now I'm back up on it, and I think it's a cool set.
I think so too. I think it's going to synergize cool with Aether Revolt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with Kaladesh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We've been podcasting a long time.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired.
2 episodes today.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's exciting. I can't wait to crack into these packs again. If you listen to this, we're going to be we've reached our $100 per episode on Patreon, and
thank you so much.
That means we are cracking a whole box on Twitch, and we're going to be giving are we billing a deck or are we just giving the rares? I thought we were billing a deck, but anyways, whatever we're doing, we're giving it all away. Is the bottom line to a patron. I
say we just mail the rares because how are we going to build a deck out of random rares from one box of stuff? It's not going to work, right?
That's dumb.
Then we got to find other cards. Like I just want to give you stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to give you cool stuff, and maybe another one too. We're talking about maybe doing 2 boxes. I think that's the way to do it. We'll see what the timing is on that. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
If you want to contact us, you can do so on Twitter @CommandersBrew. Individually, we are
@AndyHellbone.
And I'm @SeanTabaris. Or send us a Gmail, commandersbrew@gmail.com.
Also, you can check out all of our decks on tappedout.net/users/commandersbrew. And you can go to patreon.com if you'd like to donate and help support the show.
And if you want to check all this out in one place, go to commandersbrew.com for all this info.